Thank you for taking time in the middle of so much. Ryan knows me just a little bit, but I lead Impact for the Minneapolis Foundation, and we started this podcast about a year ago for us to really start digging into issues that the community is facing. And it's a good way for me, I'm from the city, to talk about stuff that I would normally be talking about with my friends and allies, and bringing it into this, sort of space and conversation. And so it's been sort of my activism, if you will, inside of philanthropy to have these conversations. So Josh, we were talking about your activism, and Coach was just saying you are really doing it right now, really getting involved. And I'm really curious on what got you activated.
I wouldn't call myself a activist, but I don't know. It was just something in me. I think with the whole social distancing and everything with coronavirus, it really forced everybody to think for themselves. It really forced everybody to, do a lot of self-reflecting. I was actually in my at home. I'm from the Metro Atlanta area. And I was actually at home with my brother, and we was just, just chilling. There's really not much to do during that time. This is around, I want to say, early May, late April. And, we just seen on the news the whole Ahmaud Arbery case, and, just watching that on the news. But, we've seen cases like that before. Although they're wrong, we want to say we kind of got normalized to them. So it's we're watching it, we're following it, we're, talking about how wrong it is. And that's another thing the whole coronavirus helped us do, was to have conversations. There's not a lot of times, we get to have conversations with those that we live with, because, my brother, he's a dentist. So he's up early in the morning. By the time he comes home, he's tired, maybe gets him to eat, take a nap. Then my schedule, I'm always away. We never have time to really talk amongst ourselves. So, he obviously wasn't going to work, and I was home, really wasn't doing anything. So it forced us to have conversations. So we were, constantly talking about it. And you start to hear a whole bunch of different viewpoints. But then, and then he showed me the video about, Elijah McClain. And then I'm like, whoa, this is even crazier. And then, the restrictions in terms of the gym has loosened up a little bit, but it's been 2 months, and I told myself, I can't just not work out no more. I have to get back into some kind of routine. So I said, okay, let me fly back up to Minnesota, and let me start working back out. So I flew to Minnesota on a Sunday, and then that Monday, that's when George Floyd, got murdered. And when that happened, that for me was kind of the striking point, because I was already a little bit on edge. And, I don't really say a lot. I don't really say too much to speak about things like this. But when that happened, something in me said, I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know what you're going to say. I don't know how you're going to come about this, but I can't say nothing anymore. You know what I'm saying? I just felt like personally saying nothing and just saying, oh, we're normalized to this, or this is just another one, or it just, for me, I feel like it just wasn't an option that I had anymore. And it was just the domino effect, just those series of events just kind of sparked that within me. And I was actually looking for something to do. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to speak to. I didn't know what to do. So it's actually funny. One of my former teammates, because I always try to spread love. I'm a strong believer of fighting hate with love. I don't really believe in retaliation in terms of physical retaliation. So, I'm reaching out to all my close friends and close teammates and just saying, man, I love you. I'm sending them good texts. How's everything? Just checking in with everybody. And one of my teammates, Jeff T, I reached out to him. I gave him a call. I was like, yo, Jeff, what's going on, bro? I just wanted to check in, make sure everything's straight. Crazy world we live in. Just make sure you stay blessed. Shot him a quick text. And he called me. He was like, what's going on, bro? Everything's cool. We were just talking about some things that didn't even have nothing to do with basketball or even the killings at that point. We were just talking about something random. I forgot what we were talking about. And then I brought this up to him, and he hit me. He said, look, man, I know some people in town, and he knew one of the publicists of what's his name? Stephen A. Jackson, yes. He said he knew a publicist of Stephen A. Jackson, and they were going to hold a press conference in Minneapolis. And he asked me, he was like, I don't know if this is something that you want to get into, but just know if you do want to, show your face, or if you do want to speak or whatever you want to do, here's the resource. This is her name. This is her number. Reach out. I already told her that you may reach out. If you don't, it's cool. So I was like, I'll think about it. Cause I didn't really want to get into the whole, you know what I'm saying? Cause I feel like once I'm in. And I didn't really know if I wanted to do something like that. So I was like, I actually told him, I was like, I probably won't even do it, but I appreciate you, reaching out to me. And then we hung up, we just left it at that. And then the whole day, I don't know, like I couldn't get away from the video. And actually I couldn't even watch the video. I watched like the first 20 seconds and I put the phone down because I didn't feel like I had the emotional capacity to watch the video at that time. And then the whole day I was just thinking about it. And then that one day, something just came to me and I was just like, like I said, like I just can't do nothing. Like I told you, I don't know no resources. I didn't know anything, but in my mind, I was like, if I do anything, this might as well be the starting point. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. Even if I don't say nothing, I'm just gonna go and just show my support and just stand in solidarity. So I reached out to her. She said, look, they had some people going to, like Jamie Foxx was there, Steven Jackson was there, of course, Tamika Mallory. She's I got a chance to meet her on different occasions. She's very she's a great person and she has a great mind and great leader as well. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna come. And then when I did it, I heard, Kat, my other teammate, wanted to come as well. So I gave Kat a call. I was like, look, Kat, I heard that you're thinking about doing this. Obviously, this is a bad time for him dealing with his circumstances. And I told him, I'm like, look, if you don't want to go, I'll definitely represent you. I represent the team. But if you don't want to do this, it's okay. He originally told me, he was like, he doesn't know if he'll be able to make it, but, if there's anything that he could do to help, let him know. And it was great, even having him there as well. So, and the best part, I feel like the most underrated part about this whole thing is having the Timberwolves like behind me.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit too, Josh. And just coincidentally, I was one of the planners of that rally, which is why I knew what published list you reached out.
Yeah. Andrea, yeah.
Yeah, and what was interesting, so we were kind of running around in there, and what was interesting is like I was going through my own thing too, right? So I work in the social sector. I'm in philanthropy. My mom actually had came home 2 days before George Floyd's murder for hospice care. And when they called me about the rally, I'm like, man, I am just emotionally spent in so many ways, but I felt like I had to put my energy towards something. Exactly. And so we were literally like in my dining room, like through this door here, planning and trying to figure out security for the event. So yesterday, actually, when I was, because everyone had masks on, so it was kind of difficult to see too. But I saw a video of you online, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually remember seeing you there, and you guys walking in, and I felt like it was a really powerful moment.
It was.
It was really powerful. Observing it, it made a huge difference.
I remember because at first it's like, because with this whole thing, it's just so polarizing. It's like, okay, if I do this, and I didn't do it in terms of like, oh, what would they think? What would they think? I did it because I felt like I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to, show that, I care, and I wanted to show that this is wrong, and I wanted to make a statement, whether I spoke or not. But it was much more comforting, and it gave me much more confidence when, the whole staff, they hit me. They was like, look, are you going to go? If not, cool. But if you're going to go, you got to let us know because we want to have security for you. You want to make sure you're straight. You want to make sure this is taken care of. We want to make sure parking is good. So we get there, and, Tony, which is one of the police officers and security, Tony Adams, that works with us. He's great. He was there for us, make sure everything was smooth. And, we had it was a great experience for me. But other people reached out, like J.O., look, like Coach reached out to me. Coach was like, look, Steven Jackson, he's having they're doing a peaceful protest tomorrow. Let me know if you want to join because we're going to have security for you, one of the assistant GMs hit me up. Look, this is a list of things going on with the protests and different things in the city this week. Let me know if you need anything. Like they're coming to, they're coming to me with a list of things, and it's much different because I'm like at first I didn't even know if I wanted to do this or not. And now that I know that I wanted to be a part of something like this, like for them to come to me and say, like, we know you want to be a part of this. We're behind you. Here are the things. If you don't know, we can supply anything you need. Like even one of our other staff members, Kurt Joseph, he has stuff that he does on his side. And I've talked to Kurt on several occasions about this. He's told me that, you know, the staff is behind him when he wants to do something too. So that just speaks volumes to me about who, you know, we had not only in the front office, but on our coaching staff. And for our whole like front office to be one of the most diverse in the NBA, it just shows you like what kind of love that we have within the organization. And I feel like we had that strong foundation like that in the heart of Minneapolis. I feel like that love can definitely be shared, not only statewide, but nationwide.
So, Coach, has this always been part of how you have led, or have you evolved as you have experienced these visible murders of Black men? Are you evolving with your team?
Yeah.
Or is it something that was a natural orientation for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's, I think seeing, you know what's wrong. You know, if you try to live your life, you know, the right way, you know what the difference between what right and wrong. And, you know, I think that one thing that sports always will do for you, you know, as somebody who's been involved in sports his whole life, been around it. My father was a coach in the NBA for a long time. He did a lot of coaching in the CBA, and I've talked about this before, but you know, it wasn't uncommon in the CBA that he would have a player that maybe got cut in the NBA, really good player who he knew, you know, I remember we were living in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and he knew that this player was not going to be in the CBA for very long. There wasn't a whole lot of money in the CBA at that time. So he always, you know, opened the house up, you know, hey, you got a 10-day contract, you know, why don't you just come live in my house? And so, you know, in a way, I feel that I was very fortunate to be, you know, a part of some diverse situations early on. And, you know, it wasn't until, and I'll speak to Josh about Josh in a moment, but it wasn't until, you know, the George Floyd killing that it really, you know, hit me in the head, hit me in the face. And it, where I was able to have those conversations with my best friend growing up since third grade. I was always a really quiet kid. And my best friend, met him on the playground playing basketball at Plymouth Creek Elementary, about 20 minutes away from here, out in Wayzata. His name is Datuno Badina, and he's Black, and we hit it off. We became best friends, and we're best friends to this day. And he and I have never had the Black-white conversation, really. And he's been my best friend for however many years, over 20 years. Until the killing of George Floyd. And it was, you know, and he said some things that really hit me hard in a way, not as hard as people, you know, who have to deal with it on a daily basis. But he said, you know, he goes, do you know why I never wanted to drive in high school? He goes, I never wanted to drive in high school because out in Wayzata, it was tough for me because I felt like I'd get stopped a lot. And I thought about it, I'm like, man, I did always drive. I was always giving him a hard time because I'm like, man, why do I always got to drive everywhere? But then he started explaining it to me. And, you know, then, you know, Josh, seeing Josh and hearing, we had a team call very early, right after, I want to say the day after the George Floyd murder. And, you know, Josh was vocal among other people. And when you hear people you love and you hear the pain that maybe they've felt or things that they've had to endure on a daily basis, that I have taken for granted. You know, if I want to go for a run, I didn't realize if I want to go for a run, I can put my cell phone on my arm, my waistband, wherever I want. You know, somebody within our organization has talked about, you know, the fact that they won't put it on their waistband because they don't want it to look like a gun if they're reaching for it. And like, that hurts me because these are people that you grow so close with, you know, through the ups and downs of a sports season. And then, you know, seeing Josh, I mean, I'm proud to be a part of this organization, but also proud to, you know, be involved and be able to work with alongside and not necessarily talk about leading because they lead, you know, just like I try to do, but seeing somebody like Josh and Carl, who was hurting during that time, during that peaceful protest and the rally. I remember watching it in my living room with my wife, and my wife loves our whole team, but she loves Carl. She's known Carl for a while, and she loves Josh. Josh always asks her how she's doing, gives her a hug, gives her asks about my son, and so she loves Josh. And she just started crying seeing Josh and Carl standing up there, and it's emotional because you see people hurting. So to answer your question, I think that I wanted to be a listener when it comes to leadership, because I just want to learn more and learn how I can help and be an ally, because it's like one of my friends told me, unfortunately for me, I could choose to not be a voice and not be a part of this tomorrow, and it wouldn't necessarily affect my daily life, because I'm white. But for a lot of people I love, and an injustice to one is an injustice to all. A lot of people I love, hurt on a daily basis, or have to make conscious decisions on a daily basis, and that's not the type of world I want my son to grow up in either.
Yeah. As I was listening to both of you, I was thinking about coming to terms with identity. So I have 4 sons, and I think about what it means to them to be inundated with these images, and how those images play into how they see themselves or their future or their responsibilities. So I was struck, Josh, in how you were talking, and then with you, Coach, white, coming from a privileged circumstance, like you're coming probably to terms with power and privilege, and how,
absolutely,
right? And I think that's underneath what you're talking about. And there's so many people that wrestle with, like, if I coming to terms with my own identity is a sense of loss. And really, it's not about centering you in this. It's about understanding the experience of others. Yeah. And so, I don't know what my question necessarily is, but Josh, you kind of detailed a little bit out the way that the most recent incidents happened. But, have you talked with any of your guys or your brother about, like, just, I know you have, in terms of, like, what does it mean to be Black in America, right? Like, I mean, are you living with, like, a daily fear? Because we hear that, and then some people don't feel that, but they know that it could happen. Like, what kind of experience are you having as a Black man?
Well, for me, growing up, it was a little different. Why I say that is just because I'm like African American, but I was born in Nigeria. So, like, my parents, like, I'm 100% African. Like, my parents are 100% African. The only person in my family who wasn't really born in Nigeria is my little brother. He's the only one that was born here. But why I say that is, like, being, like, with my parents coming to the States, they kind of put us in, like, in a different realm in terms of raising us. Like, we were raised like we had to be perfect. And it wasn't even being perfect in terms of, like how regular, I don't say the regular, but how a normal African-American parent would, train their household, like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. Like, my parents raised us like we couldn't make any mistakes. Like, we couldn't like get in trouble in school. It was just because they didn't want any trouble to where we would get sent back to, to Nigeria. Yeah. It was the fear of, they brought us here for a better life. So, like, when I was growing up, it wasn't necessarily don't stay out at night because of the cops. It was just don't stay out at night for any reason. You know what I'm saying? So, like, growing up, like, I felt that I had to be perfect. Like, even when I was on the, when I was playing basketball, I had to make sure academics was good. And it kind of helped, though, growing up in my neighborhood, because everybody was Black in my neighborhood growing up. Like, police officers was Black, like, the school was predominantly Black. There was probably 10, white people in my school in terms of, like, students. Like, the whole demographic for where I grew up was Black. So you didn't really see a lot of, like, white police officers. You like I'm telling you, like, pretty much everybody was Black. So I grew up naive in a sense to, white officers and Black kids. And I never really, and I was so sheltered. Why I say that is my parents were so, like, protective. Like, after school, you come straight home. Like, my mom didn't let me go to sleepovers. I could barely talk on the phone. Like just like growing up, like, it was so strict. And it was just them trying to protect us. So by the time I go to college and I'm living by myself, I would say college was probably my first time ever in my life where I was in the open and dealing with a lot of different demographics at one time. So, and but it kind of helped though, because I was in Atlanta. So the demographic from Atlanta is mixed as well. It's not, predominantly white, it's not predominantly black. So in college, I was, kind of having conversations with, white people and kind of being in an environment which is predominantly white, because my college was predominantly white. So, then I kind of felt, for the first time in my life, I felt like the strange person, you know what I'm saying? In Minnesota, I would say it's my first time ever being in a population where everything now is there's like, there's not a lot of black, per se people in Minnesota. But why I say all this is I feel like how I was raised is kind of the standard for every black person in America. We have to be perfect for anything. You make one mistake when you're black and it's like, oh, they like the way they treat somebody who is black that makes one mistake is it's crazy. Even you could even see it with the social distancing mechanisms when they told everybody that there was curfew and they put curfews into place. And it was like the same city. They had a dark-skinned black person, a light-skinned black person, and a white person all violated curfew at the same time, and the amounts of bail for all three people were different. The dark-skinned person had the largest amount of bail, then the light-skinned had a little bit less expensive, and like the white person his bail was probably little to none. And then that's when you start to see, like, man, as a black person in America, you have to be perfect. And growing up, and I want to say I didn't grow up perfect, I made a lot of mistakes, but it was very hard. Yeah. It's very hard to grow up perfect. It's like saying if you're on a basketball court and you tell somebody you have to make your next 10 shots. It's so much pressure. You're for sure gonna miss because people put that pressure on you that you have to make this next 10 shot. If you told me in the gym, look, just take 10, I'll probably make more if you told me to take 10 than telling me you have to make every all 10. So that's just kind of how my perception is on everything. Like, it's not coach's fault. It's nobody's fault. I'm not blaming anybody. It's like, for me, I don't have hate with nobody. Like I told you, I love everybody. But as a white person in America, you don't have to be perfect. You can make a couple mistakes here and there, no matter the severity of the mistakes. You can make a mistake and still be good. What's his name? Coach John Thompson, right? The coach from Georgetown. I heard I actually was reading up on him, and he said a video. He was like, to be a black coach, you have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And he said he hates it because he said you shouldn't have to be perfect to be a black coach. You shouldn't have to win it. You shouldn't have to win a national championship to be a black coach. You shouldn't have to have the greatest record in the world to be a black coach. And I think that's just, I don't want to say my problem, but that's just kind of how I kind of see stuff as, like, as blacks, we're put under so much pressure to be perfect. And I'd say when you put so much pressure on people, it's going to be worse than if you didn't put that much pressure on people. So that's just kind of my whole outlook on everything.
Yeah, a lot. There's so much in there. And I think what, again, I was struck by is, like, so you grew up in an experience where there might have been 10 white people. And Ryan, you probably grew up in the very opposite scenario where you went to high school was probably all white with a handful of black people. And so, how do you think that that informed you or prepared you? Because I think there's a lot of folks that, as they are sitting inside of Minneapolis or other communities that are predominantly white, thinking about issues related to race and identity, while they're in a community that lacks the diversity that would give them that education. Like, if their son didn't bring home a third grade black friend, right? Yeah. And even if they did, would you let them in the house, right? And, like, would you be okay with them going back and forth or whatever? But if you were giving advice to parents about what you think would have maybe better prepared you in the context that you grew up in, what would you advise?
I think it's a good question. It's one that, I would admit to say, I don't necessarily have the right answer, but all I would say at this point right now is, and that's what a lot of, unfortunately, murders of black and brown individuals, at the hands of law enforcement, has opened up these dialogues, between people and people of different races and people of different backgrounds. But, I would just say that, to one, open your ears and try to listen, and educate yourself on, I did not understand, the redlining that has gone on in Minnesota, for years. I mean, I wasn't aware of that because bottom line, it didn't affect me. And, but I am aware of, how so many people that I care about and love feel now. And so, and that's, by trying to listen, and also, understanding that, however you may perceive something to, or someone to be, it doesn't, you need to guard against those. If you're really trying to stand up for what's right, and you're trying to be about what's right when it comes to race in America, you need to guard against maybe your own implicit or explicit biases too. And I think that, and I reference, a lot of times what players, because I've been able to have, a lot of conversations with players, and they've been teaching me so much more when, in a way, in Wayzata, I felt very, it was predominantly white going to high school. So you have that element of, my life, but then, the fact that my dad was a basketball coach, I was around a lot of Black and brown individuals then. And so, the fact that race wasn't necessarily maybe talked about a lot, can also be maybe an issue too. Yeah. On the other side, going the other way, because I just think that people that look like myself, need to be vocal and need to stand up for the injustices that we're seeing, for different races.
Mm-hmm.
To piggyback off what Coach said, I think what makes it easier is just playing sports. You name a race, you name a religion, anything. I've probably played with a teammate, of all different kind of sorts. I played with everybody, and you start to learn everybody is the same.
Yeah, one of the things, I was thinking about your college experience too, right? And I was thinking, okay, you went to predominantly white college, but you're an athlete.
Exactly.
And so athletes get treated differently, right? And you have a celebrity that comes with you, and you have a platform that comes with you. But, based on what you just said, and, I think, and I believe wholeheartedly in what you're saying, right? Like, you look at like sports and the role that sports have played in integrating sports. When you look at the activism within sports, whether or not it was an Olympic team, or whether or not it was Muhammad Ali, or whether or not it's what you guys are doing in this moment right now, right? Like this whole thing, this concept of team and investment in it actually makes me quite sad in terms of what I'm seeing in our public education system, where we're not investing in the same way because we don't understand, or we haven't valued the disciplines, the coaching, the teaming, the individual goal setting that happens through sports. And you're talking about breaking down barriers, but it is a place that will challenge you and teach you a lot. And I think about that a lot in terms of like kind of local sports. And I'm curious on whether or not you think sports should be something that should be considered as part of young people's development.
100%. I think sports is how life should be. An objective where people from different backgrounds, people from different areas come together to achieve one goal. And the goal is life, pretty much. Like, I have to work with you, no matter the circumstance. We're all on the same team. Like, we're all on the same team. It doesn't matter where you come from. We have one goal. Like, I feel like with sports, I don't even realize, like, I had a teammate, Gorgie Jang, on the team. After every game, he would pray. Like literally, like after we would play whatever game, it don't matter if we lost by 100 points, if we won by 100 points. No matter what happens, coach comes in, he yells at us, or he's smiling. Whatever coach decides to do, he does it. And then we go take a shower. And after he takes a shower, he puts his towels down and he prays for his 5 minutes. And it's just crazy because everybody knows that he does it, and the respect that we give him is crazy. Like, we know, one, don't step on the towel because that's like his sacred ground. 2, when he's praying, you don't talk to him because obviously he's trying to connect with God. Like 3, like even like the media people, when if they want to talk to him, they know, okay, y'all, let's talk to this person first. He's praying. Let's respect him. We all embrace it. We respect him. And I think that's how life should be. You know, you're different from me. You might have something else to do that I don't do, but I have to respect you. And I might have something that I do that you don't do. You have to respect me. And that collective respect, I feel like that's what we're lacking, you know, in today. It's just so subconscious that you don't even realize how much respect that you're just displaying for him right now because it's so second nature. And I feel like we don't have that second nature respect right now amongst everybody globally.
Yeah, and I think that I feel that sports is the great, you know, uniter in so many ways. And you know where that comes from too is we had Bishop T.D. Jakes on with our team, and he spoke on this topic. And one of the things that he said and he put in, and I won't say it as eloquent or as poignant as he does, but he said that you look at, you know, basketball and, hey, everybody out there, everybody's playing by the same rules. It's a level playing field. Everybody, it's equal. You know, you're all trying to, hey, it's a foul, it's a foul. If you hit the guy on the wrist, whatever it is, you know, you make it from behind the 3-point line, it's a 3. It's very basic, but it's all equal playing, a level playing field. And, you know, we don't, you know, but you said outside of the sports arena and outside of those lines, you know, that's not how it is. And I think when you think of it that way, and you know, I guess you know, you say you think of it, someone like myself too, it just makes me think even more about, man, like I didn't even realize all this because ultimately it didn't affect my day-to-day life. And you know, it's not, and I've had a lot of, you know, friends tell me, hey, like there's no reason to feel any type of guilt by any means, but it's you know, we all need to be aware. And I think that, you know, George Floyd's murder and everything that's gone on, that's made us all more aware right now.
Yeah, I got one more question, and that is really like George Floyd happened in our town, right? Like this is where we are working and living. And, you know, I'm watching sort of the activism and the leadership of the NBA, the WNBA, a lot of visible celebrities with brand and visibility that are taking that responsibility seriously towards change. And Coach, can you talk about, do you see this moment beyond the time that we're living in terms of how the Timberwolves will be involved in social issues? Like, do you see continuing that work? And if so, is there anything you can share about how you're thinking about that? Yeah,
I mean, I do see this being a moment, and I'm sure Josh will be able to elaborate a little bit, but I see it being a moment and you know, hopefully being a turning point, you know, for change. But you know, no matter what, I feel like it'll be a turning point for what we're, you know, looking to do to help affect change. And you know, every opportunity I have to speak on this, you know, I always bring up how the NBA and the WNBA, you know, it's an honor to be a part of this association because of the way that, you know, leadership and that's the league office everywhere. They want to listen to those, and they want to help those who maybe don't have a voice. And I think that goes in so many ways. And we've had a lot of you know, initiatives be announced, you know, since, you know, the George Floyd killing here in our backyard. But you know, our Pack the Vote initiative, where when it comes to voter registration, voter education, helping underserved, under-resourced communities, and you know, for, you know, African American communities, but then also, you know, it can go along the lines to Latino as well, when it comes to voter registration. So I mean, I think it's important that you know, we keep the momentum going, and you know, when you have people like Josh, who, you know, stand up for what they believe in, and people who you know, act as opposed to just speak, you know, it makes it very easy decision for someone like myself, you know, who is a white male in a position of leadership, to want to support and want to be an ally and want to continuously stand up for what's right.
Yeah, maybe one more thing, and that is that we have seen sports organizations that have not embraced the leadership and activism of their players.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other programs like what were, the Timberwolves and the Lynx and others that are really doing that. And so for not just other coaches,
Mm-hmm.
but for people that are in office buildings that have a team, for people that are responsible for other people that that are bringing a point of view, that want to bring voice to issues that they care about in this community. Is there anything that you might offer that so that we can kind of scale it back from being like a big team thing to like an act of leadership that allows for the leadership of others to surface?
Yeah, and I'll punt this over to Josh after I'm done talking, because I think Josh can speak to what he needs to be a successful person working towards a common goal within an organization. But for myself in a position of leadership, I'm a strong believer that there's no right and wrong way to lead. There's just your way. And, I may have a different way than other coaches. Other coaches have a different way than me. But players, especially, they can see when you're not yourself. And, what I believe in is servant leadership. And I feel that you serve the, in our case, you serve the player, or you serve the person before you're trying to, approach the athlete. And so, I mean, you want to make sure people are comfortable enough. I don't think people can always be on edge. You want to make sure people are comfortable enough if you're working towards, everybody has a different goal, whatever, corporation, whatever, sports team, whatever, you may be involved with, working towards that common goal. People need to feel supported, and that comes with listening. And, where I don't believe in the mindset of, hey, it's, let's keep, whatever it is, politics, or let's keep activism outside of our work. I feel that if people are feeling that like they aren't supported, or people are feeling like they don't have, people don't have their back, their production is not going to be, at a high level. And so, I mean, I guess it's taking a step back, I would tell other leaders that, first off, it's the right thing to do, because, like I said, an injustice to one person is injustice to everyone. And we've heard that a lot. But, when it comes to if a leader is solely focused on the outcome, I'd like to think that your outcome is going to be more positive than negative if you just support your, quote unquote employees, I guess. But I'll punt it over to Josh and let Josh, talk about how he feels, and how he feels like he needs to be led or supported.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, like I feel like, like Coach said, everybody has their different ways of leading, and everybody has their different ways of helping as well. I feel like, some people like to help in terms of resources, money. Like I know like a couple celebrities, they'll give money to those who are, put in jail for getting arrested for a peaceful protest, whatever the case may be. But I feel like, just doing nothing, that's unacceptable. Like nothing is unacceptable. But like Coach said, like if you have your different way of leading, that's cool, because we're not gonna win this fight by doing this thing one way. We gotta hit this, doing a different way, and how we can come together and collectively and rub our brains together to see how many different ways we can attack this monster. That's better. But I feel like as with the Timberwolves organization, they have the most important ingredient that we need to help fight this thing, which is the willingness. They have the willingness, and it's not just the coaches, it's not just the front office, it's the players as well who aren't Black. Mm-hmm. Like true story, I went to Kentucky to do some stuff with the community, because that's where Breonna Taylor was murdered as well. So I went to the community. We did food drops. I actually met Breonna Taylor's mother, her sister, her boyfriend, who was actually in the house with her when that tragic event happened. But like when I came back, one of my teammates who's Hispanic, Juancho, because I posted a lot of the stuff on my Instagram. Juancho came to me. I was like, "What's up, Juancho?" He literally came to me and pushed me, like he was mad at me. Like he really gave me like a hard push. And I was like, "What you push me for?" He said, "If you ever go do something like that again when you're helping the community out or you're doing something of that nature and you don't invite me, I'm gonna beat you up next time." That's what he told me. I promise you, that's what he told me. I'm talking about. I'm literally just coming in. I didn't say nothing to nobody. Like he just pushed me and he told me that. And I was like, wow. You know, I was like, really like, wow, like that's crazy. And that's like the energy across the board from the last player on the bench to the highest position in the front office. That's across the board. That's kind of the energy that everybody has. Like we may not have all the answers. We may not know everything to do, but we're willing to try. We're willing to do everything, obviously amongst our power to help, you know, fight. And I feel like that's, like I said, that's the most important ingredient. And I think the Timberwolves have that 110%. And you know, I really appreciate that because now I'm like, wow, it gives you more confidence. It gives you more life. It gives you more hope when you see other people who aren't necessarily being affected as you are fighting the same cause that you are. So that's how I'm going to end this. But I'm speechless, to be honest.
Yeah, there's so much power in that. And I think that, you know, some of the argument or some of the sentiment from community is that we are here. We're not invisible. Like, hear us, hear our story, hear what we are experiencing and help us, partner with us to make sure that this doesn't continue. And so I think the story that you just said illustrated not just having leadership that sees you and honors not just who you are, but what you bring, and then they're willing to partner with you, and to have teammates on the team that this may not be my issue, but it's my issue because you're on my team.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think that's what this is all about. And in the podcast is saying, really, we're all on the same team. Really, we all have some of the same goals to make this a livable city that we can all be proud of, where we are thriving and folks have access. And so I appreciate both of you and your willingness to be on this podcast, to continue to share your story and to inspire. Every time I hear more about the Timberwolves program, I'm like more like I'm becoming a super fan if I wasn't before I am now, because you want to know that the core values. And I think those core values speak so loudly, not because you've got them on a document or a website, but because you're living them and you're acting into them. You're owning what you don't know, and you're willing to go where you need to go. And just mad respect for that, Coach and Josh. Thank you again, and I appreciate you.
That's Ryan Saunders, Josh Okogie, and Chanda Smith-Baker. Special thanks to the Minnesota Lynx and Timberwolves in partnering up with Team Up for Change, where 9 WNBA and NBA teams come together on a shared commitment and call for racial equality and social justice. To learn more, just head over to Twitter or Instagram at Chanda S. Baker. This is Supak Kienitz from the Minneapolis Foundation. Thank you for listening to Conversations with Chanda.